It's the summer of 2019 in the picturesque town of Willow Creek, a charming place known for its cobblestone streets, boutique coffee shops, and a sense of community so tight-knit that everybody knew each other's secrets. Except, of course, the ones too scandalous to share. Ethan Harper, a 38-year-old architect, is celebrated for designing the kind of dreamy homes that people pin on their vision boards. To anyone looking in, Ethan has it all. A successful career, a gorgeous family home nestled by the lake, and a loving marriage to Sophia, his high school sweetheart. Sophia, 36, is a dedicated kindergarten teacher whose warmth and kindness make her adored by everyone she meets. With her curly brown hair, big doe eyes, and a laugh that could melt glaciers, she's the kind of woman who lights up every room she walks into. Together, she and Ethan have 2 kids, Lily, a precocious 8-year-old with a passion for painting, and Oliver, a 3-year-old ball of energy who loves dinosaurs. The Harpers look like the kind of family you'd see on a holiday postcard. But as we all know, sometimes the most beautiful pictures can hide cracks that are invisible until you look closer. Ethan is sitting on the porch with a steaming cup of coffee in hand, watching as Lily paints on her easel while Oliver runs around chasing imaginary dinosaurs. The sound of Sophia humming from the kitchen carries out through the open window, and for a moment, everything feels perfect. "Daddy, do you think I could sell my paintings one day?" Lily asks, her face smudged with blue and yellow streaks of paint. "Absolutely, sweetheart," Ethan replies, taking a sip of his coffee. "You're already better than most of the artists I've seen." "Even better than Uncle Ryan?" Ethan chuckles. "Don't tell him I said this. But yes, even better than your Uncle Ryan." Sophia steps out onto the porch, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "Ethan, don't crush Ryan's artistic dreams in front of the kids," she teases, giving him a playful nudge as she sits down beside him. "Hey, I'm just being honest," Ethan says with a grin. "Besides, Lily's a natural." Sophia watches their daughter for a moment, her expression softening. "She really is," she agrees. "We should sign her up for those art classes at the community center." "She'd love it." Ethan nods. "I'll look into it on Monday." For a while, they sit in comfortable silence, soaking in the peacefulness of the moment. But even as Ethan enjoys the warmth of his family around him, there's a nagging feeling in the back of his mind that he can't quite shake. Ethan's best friend, Ryan, stops by later that afternoon. The two have been friends since college and share a bond that's more like brothers than friends. Ryan is everything Ethan isn't: outgoing, spontaneous, and never afraid to speak his mind. As the kids run off to show Ryan their latest toys, Ethan pulls out a couple of beers from the fridge and joins him on the back patio. "You've got it good here, man," Ryan says, taking a swig of his beer and gesturing to the yard. "The house, the family, the whole package. You ever stop to think about how lucky you are?" "All the time," Ethan says, though there's a flicker of hesitation in his voice. Ryan raises an eyebrow. "What's that tone? Don't tell me Mr. Perfect Life is actually stressed about something." Ethan leans back in his chair, staring out at the lake. "It's not stress. It's just, I don't know. Lately, I feel like Sophia and I have been stuck in this routine. We barely talk about anything that isn't the kids or work. It's like we're roommates instead of a married couple." Ryan lets out a low whistle. "That's heavy. You've talked to her about it, right?" "Not really," Ethan admits. "I don't want to make it seem like I'm unhappy because I'm not. I love her, and I love our life. I just miss how things used to be." "Maybe you should plan something for just the two of you," Ryan suggests. "A weekend away, dinner at that fancy place downtown. Shake things up a bit." Ethan nods, mulling over the idea. "Yeah, maybe you're right. We could use some time to reconnect." That evening, as Ethan tucks the kids into bed, he decides to bring it up with Sophia. She's in the living room grading papers, her laptop perched on her knees and a cup of tea on the coffee table. "Soph, can we talk for a minute?" he asks, sitting down beside her. "Of course," she says, closing her laptop. "What's on your mind?" "I've been thinking," Ethan begins, choosing his words carefully. It feels like we haven't had much time for just us lately. What do you think about planning a date night? Maybe even a weekend getaway if we can swing it? Sophia smiles, but it doesn't quite reach her eyes. That sounds nice, Ethan. It really does. But between work, the kids, and everything else, I don't know how we'd make it work right now. We'll figure it out, Ethan says, leaning forward. It's important, sophomore. I miss spending time with you, just the two of us. Sophia hesitates, her gaze dropping to her tea. I miss that too, she admits quietly. Ethan reaches for her hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. Then let's do it. Even if it's just one night, we can make it happen. She nods, a small smile returning to her face. Okay, let's try. In the days that follow, Ethan throws himself into planning a special evening for Sophia. He books a table at their favorite restaurant downtown, arranges for a babysitter, and even picks up a new dress for her as a surprise. But as the night approaches, Sophia seems distracted. She's been spending more time on her phone than usual, always quick to put it away when Ethan enters the room. Everything okay? He asks one evening as she scrolls through her messages, barely looking up. Oh yeah, everything's fine, she says, flashing him a quick smile before setting her phone aside. Ethan doesn't push, but the uneasy feeling from before begins to creep back. The much-anticipated date night finally arrives, and Ethan goes all out. Sophia looks stunning in the dress he bought her, and for a while it feels like old times. They laugh, reminisce, and enjoy the kind of deep conversation they haven't had in years. As they're walking back to the car, Ethan feels a renewed sense of hope. Maybe this is what they needed, a reminder of why they fell in love in the first place. But later that night, as Sophia sleeps soundly beside him, Ethan's phone buzzes with a notification. It's a text from Ryan. Call me when you can. I need to talk to you about something important. Ethan frowns, his heart sinking with a sense of foreboding. Whatever it is, he has a feeling it's about to turn his world upside down. Ethan lies awake that night, staring at the ceiling as Ryan's text loops through his mind. What could Ryan possibly need to talk about at this hour? Ethan resists the urge to wake Sophia and instead steps out of the bedroom, phone in hand. In the quiet of the kitchen, he dials Ryan's number. Hey man. Ryan answers almost immediately, his voice low. Sorry for texting so late. I just didn't want to sit on this any longer. Ethan frowns. What's going on? You're making me nervous. There's a pause on the other end of the line. Look, I wasn't sure if I should say anything, but I saw Sophia today, downtown. She was with some guy. Ethan blinks, his grip tightening on the phone. What are you talking about? What guy? I don't know. They were at that cafe on Main Street. It didn't look like a casual meeting, Ethan. She was laughing, leaning in close. Ryan's voice trails off, and the weight of his words sinks in. Ethan shakes his head, pacing the kitchen. There's gotta be some mistake. Maybe it was someone from work, or... I get it, man. I wouldn't believe it either if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. But something felt off. I thought you should know. Ethan ends the call shortly after, trying to calm his racing thoughts. He tells himself Ryan must have misread the situation. Sophia wouldn't do that to him. But as much as Ethan wants to dismiss it, doubt begins to creep in. The next morning, Ethan tries to shake off the conversation with Ryan. He tells himself he's overthinking, that there's a perfectly reasonable explanation. But when Sophia leaves for work, he notices she takes an unusual amount of care with her appearance. More than she usually does for a day spent wrangling kindergartners. You're all dressed up today, Ethan says, keeping his tone light. Sophia glances at him, her expression unreadable. We've got a parent-teacher meeting this afternoon. I just wanted to look professional. Ethan nods, but the explanation doesn't quite settle the unease in his chest. That evening, Ethan decides to stop by the cafe Ryan mentioned. It's quiet when he arrives, the kind of place where couples linger over lattes and students tap away on their laptops. He takes a seat by the window, scanning the room as if the answers to his questions might be written on the walls. He pulls out his phone and scrolls through social media, looking for anything that might confirm or disprove Ryan's suspicions. It's a fruitless effort. Sophia's posts are all family photos and classroom updates. Nothing out of the ordinary. Just as he's about to leave, he notices someone walk in. A man in his late 30s. Sharp suit, confident stride. Ethan wouldn't have paid him much attention if the man hadn't immediately greeted the barista by name, ordering the usual. Something about him sets Ethan on edge, though he can't quite explain why. Ethan doesn't confront the man or the barista. Instead, he leaves the cafe with more questions than answers. Over the next few days, Ethan becomes increasingly aware of the distance between him and Sophia. She's more reserved, often glued to her phone or lost in her thoughts. Ethan tries to bridge the gap, suggesting family outings and date nights, but Sophia always has an excuse. One evening, after the kids are asleep, Ethan finds Sophia in the living room. She's curled up on the couch, her phone clutched in her hand. "Hey," Ethan says, sitting down beside her. "You've been pretty busy lately. Everything okay?" Sophia smiles, but it doesn't reach her eyes. "Just a lot going on at work. You know how it is." "Yeah," Ethan replies, though the answer feels hollow. As the days go on, the tension between them becomes harder to ignore. Ethan starts to wonder if Ryan was right after all. A week later, Ethan's doubts come to a head. He's in the middle of a work meeting when his phone buzzes with a notification. It's a text from Sophia. "Running late. Don't wait up for me." Normally, Ethan wouldn't think twice about it. But this time, something doesn't sit right. On a hunch, he decides to head home early. When he arrives, the house is dark. The kids are with the babysitter, and Sophia's car is nowhere in sight. Ethan's chest tightens as he steps inside, the silence feeling oppressive. He glances around the house, looking for any sign of where Sophia might be. In the bedroom, he notices her laptop on the desk. Normally, he wouldn't invade her privacy, but tonight, the temptation is too strong to resist. Ethan opens the laptop and hesitates before typing in the password. When the screen unlocks, he's greeted by her email inbox. Most of it looks like typical work correspondence, but one message stands out. A thread with no subject line, sent to an email address Ethan doesn't recognize. He clicks on it, and his heart sinks as he reads the messages. The exchange is casual, filled with inside jokes and flirtatious banter. One message in particular catches his eye. "Can't wait to see you again. Tonight was amazing." Ethan stares at the screen, his hands trembling. When Sophia comes home later that night, Ethan is waiting for her in the living room. She freezes when she sees him, her keys jangling in her hand. "You're home early," she says, her tone light but her eyes wary. Ethan holds up the laptop, the incriminating email still open on the screen. "Care to explain this?" Sophia's face pales as she sets her purse down. "Ethan, don't lie to me," he interrupts, his voice tight with emotion. "I deserve the truth." She hesitates, and for a moment Ethan thinks she might actually deny it. But then her shoulders slump, and she nods. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she says quietly. "It just did." Ethan feels like the floor has been pulled out from under him. "How long?" "6 months?" she admits, tears streaming down her face. "6 months?" Ethan repeats, his voice barely above a whisper. "And you didn't think to tell me?" Sophia shakes her head, sobbing. "I was scared. I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't know how to stop." Ethan stands up, running a hand through his hair. "You didn't want to hurt me? Well, congratulations, Sophia. You did." Sophia pleads with him to stay, to talk things through, but Ethan can't bring himself to look at her. He grabs his keys and leaves the house, the sound of her cries echoing in his ears. Ethan spends the night driving aimlessly, trying to make sense of everything. When the sun rises, he finds himself parked at the edge of the lake, the water shimmering in the early morning light. He knows he can't ignore what's happened, but he doesn't know how to move forward. If you're as hooked on this story as we are, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned for the next chapter, where things get even more intense. Ethan parks by the lake and leans his head against the steering wheel. His thoughts are racing, a whirlwind of anger, heartbreak, and confusion. 6 months. That's how long Sophia had been lying to him, sneaking around behind his back. The woman he thought he knew, the partner he built his life with, had betrayed him in a way he never imagined possible. As the sun rises, Ethan knows he can't stay here forever. He drives back home, though the thought of stepping inside the house makes his stomach churn. When he walks through the door, the house feels eerily silent. Sophia is sitting at the kitchen table, her face pale and tear-streaked. "Ethan," she starts, her voice trembling. "Please, can we talk?" Ethan doesn't sit down. He stands in the doorway, his arms crossed, keeping as much distance between them as possible. "Talk about what?" "How you lied to me. How you've been cheating on me for half a year." Sophia flinches, her eyes welling up with fresh tears. "I know I hurt you, and I know there's no excuse for what I did. But I love you, Ethan. I love our family. I want to fix this." Ethan lets out a bitter laugh. "Fix this? Do you even hear yourself? You don't get to destroy everything we've built and then just say, 'Let's fix it.'" Sophia stands up, her hands clasped together as if in prayer. "It was a mistake. I wasn't thinking. Things between us felt distant. And don't." Ethan interrupts, his voice sharp. "Don't try to pin this on me. If you were unhappy, you should have talked to me. But instead, you decided to throw everything away for what? Who even is this guy?" Sophia hesitates, and that brief pause answers more than any words could. "It's someone I work with," she admits finally. "But it's over, Ethan. I ended it." The confession stings even more than Ethan expected. He takes a step back, shaking his head. "You ended it? That's supposed to make me feel better? You ended it after I caught you." Sophia takes a shaky breath. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I'll do whatever it takes to make things right." Ethan stares at her, his mind spinning. He doesn't trust himself to respond, so he walks out of the room and heads upstairs, leaving Sophia standing alone in the kitchen. Over the next few days, Ethan barely speaks to Sophia. He stays late at work, avoids sitting down for meals, and spends most of his evenings with Lily and Oliver, throwing himself into his role as a father. Sophia, on the other hand, tries to bridge the gap. She leaves him notes apologizing and suggesting they try therapy. She offers to explain everything, to answer any questions he has, but Ethan refuses to engage. He doesn't want explanations. He wants to rewind time and undo everything that's happened. The tipping point comes one evening when Ethan receives a call from Ryan. "I did some digging," Ryan says without preamble. "I thought you might want to know more about this guy. His name's Eric. Works in admin at Sophia's school. He's married, by the way." Ethan's grip on the phone tightens. "You're sure?" "Yeah. His wife's name is Allison. I found her on social media. She deserves to know, Ethan." Ethan exhales sharply. He hadn't thought about Eric's wife, but Ryan's right. She has a right to the truth just like he did. After some deliberation, Ethan decides to reach out. The next day, Ethan sits in his car, staring at his phone. He's found Allison's number online, but calling her feels like crossing a line. Still, the thought of her living in the dark, just like he had, compels him to press the call button. "Hello." Allison's voice is soft, polite. "Hi, Allison." Ethan begins, his voice strained. "You don't know me, but my name is Ethan Harper. I think we need to talk about your husband." There's a pause on the other end of the line. "What about him?" Ethan explains everything, his words careful but honest. He hears the sharp intake of breath on the other end as Allison absorbs the revelation. "Are you sure?" she asks, her voice breaking. "I wish I wasn't," Ethan says, "but I thought you deserved to know." Allison agrees to meet Ethan in person. They sit across from each other at a small cafe, the weight of the conversation pressing down on them. "I had no idea," Allison says, tears streaming down her face. "Eric always said he was working late. I never questioned it." Ethan nods, his own emotions bubbling to the surface. "I know how you feel. It's like your whole life gets turned upside down in an instant." They talk for over an hour, sharing their stories and trying to make sense of what's happened. By the end of the conversation, They both feel a strange sense of solidarity. "We can't let them get away with this," Allison says, her voice firm despite the tears. "They need to face the consequences." Ethan agrees. Together, they start to formulate a plan. A week later, Sophia and Eric are blindsided. Allison confronts Eric at their home, presenting him with screenshots of text messages she managed to recover. Meanwhile, Ethan serves Sophia with separation papers, making it clear that he's no longer willing to pretend everything can go back to normal. Sophia is devastated, pleading with Ethan to reconsider. "This isn't what I want," she says, tears streaming down her face. "Please, don't do this." But Ethan stands firm. "It's not just about what you want, Sophia. It's about what I need. And I need to move on." Sophia moves out of the house, leaving Ethan to navigate life as a single father. The adjustment is painful, but Ethan finds solace in his children and his work. He starts attending therapy, not just for himself but to ensure he can be the best father possible for Lily and Oliver. Meanwhile, Sophia struggles to rebuild her life. The fallout from her actions has left her isolated. Her friends distance themselves, her colleagues whisper behind her back, and Eric is nowhere to be found. For Ethan, the road ahead is still uncertain, but he feels a newfound sense of strength. He's determined to create a life where he and his kids can thrive, even if it looks different than the one he originally envisioned. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more stories like this one. Stick around for the next part, where we explore how Ethan begins to rebuild and what's next for Sophia. Ethan adjusts to life without Sophia, but the reality of her absence is bittersweet. His evenings are now spent helping Lily with her art projects and chasing Oliver around the house, trying to keep him from drawing on the walls. The laughter of his kids provides some solace, but the house still feels emptier than it should. At work, Ethan throws himself into his projects, channeling his pain into precision and creativity. His colleagues notice the change, though most don't ask questions. Only Ryan, as blunt as ever, offers unsolicited advice. "You're handling this better than I thought you would," Ryan says one evening as they share a beer after work. "But don't bottle it all up, man. If you're pissed, be pissed. You've got every right." "I don't even know what I feel anymore," Ethan admits. "Some days I'm furious. Other days, I just feel hollow." Ryan claps him on the shoulder. "Well, you've got people who've got your back. Don't forget that." Meanwhile, Sophia tries to salvage the remnants of her life. She moves into a small apartment on the other side of town and begins attending therapy sessions. She hopes to repair the damage she's caused, but she quickly realizes the uphill battle she faces. At work, whispers follow her wherever she goes. Parents pull their children from her class, citing vague excuses. Her once friendly colleagues offer only curt nods in passing. Even the principal calls her into his office to have an uncomfortable conversation about her professionalism. Sophia feels the weight of her actions crushing down on her. She tries to reach out to Ethan, leaving voicemails and sending heartfelt texts, but he doesn't respond. The finality of their separation becomes painfully clear when she receives the divorce papers. Ethan meets Allison again, this time to discuss the next steps in their mutual quest for closure. Allison is surprisingly composed, though her calm exterior hides the turmoil she's still grappling with. "I confronted Eric," she tells Ethan over coffee. "He admitted to everything but didn't seem all that remorseful. I don't think he even understands what he's lost." Ethan nods, his jaw tightening. "Sophia said she ended things, but it doesn't change anything. The damage is done." Allison stirs her coffee absent-mindedly. "I just keep asking myself why. Why wasn't I enough? Why couldn't he just talk to me?" Ethan doesn't have an answer. He's asked himself the same questions 1,000 times. Instead, he offers her a small, sad smile. "It's not about us. It's about them. They made their choices. All we can do now is move forward." The story takes a dramatic turn when Ethan receives a call from Allison late one night. Her voice is shaky, barely above a whisper. "Ethan, I need your help. Eric showed up at my house. He's drunk, and he won't leave." Ethan's blood boils at the thought of Eric harassing Allison. Without hesitation, he grabs his keys and drives to her house. When he arrives, he finds Eric standing on the porch, shouting slurred accusations. Allison is inside, visibly shaken but holding her ground. Ethan steps out of the car, his presence immediately drawing Eric's attention. Well, if it isn't the knight in shining armor. Eric sneers, his words dripping with contempt. Leave her alone, Ethan says, his voice calm but firm. Eric laughs bitterly. What are you gonna do? Hit me? Go ahead. It won't change anything. Ethan clenches his fists but doesn't rise to the bait. You've already done enough damage, Eric. Walk away before you make this worse for yourself. After a tense standoff, Eric finally stumbles off the porch, muttering under his breath as he disappears into the night. Allison opens the door, her eyes filled with gratitude and exhaustion. Thank you, she says softly. I didn't know who else to call. You don't have to go through this alone, Ethan assures her. The confrontation with Eric is a wake-up call for Ethan. He realizes he can't keep living in limbo, letting the past dictate his future. He begins taking steps to truly move on, starting with the house. Selling the lake house is one of the hardest decisions Ethan has to make, but he knows it's necessary. The memories it holds are too painful, too tied to the life he thought he had. With the support of Ryan and his kids, Ethan finds a new home. A smaller, cozier place that feels like a fresh start. Lily picks out her new room, declaring it perfect for painting, while Oliver runs circles around the empty living room, giggling about how much space there is for his dinosaur toys. Just as Ethan begins to find his footing, Sophia makes an unexpected appearance. She shows up at the new house unannounced, holding a box of Lily's forgotten art supplies. I didn't know where else to take these, she says awkwardly, standing on the porch. Ethan takes the box but doesn't invite her in. Thanks, he says simply. Sophia hesitates, her eyes scanning the house. It's nice. Smaller than the old place, but cozy. Yeah, Ethan replies. It's home. There's a long silence before Sophia speaks again. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for everything. I know I hurt you, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. Ethan looks at her, his expression unreadable. I appreciate that, but it doesn't change anything. I know, she says, tears welling up in her eyes. I just needed to say it. As she turns to leave, Ethan feels a strange sense of closure. For the first time since this all began, he feels like he can truly let go. Ethan's journey toward healing is far from over, but he's finally moving in the right direction. He focuses on his kids, his work, and his own well-being, determined to build a life that's stronger and more fulfilling than the one he left behind. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned for the final chapter, where Ethan finds closure and takes the first steps toward a brighter future. Ethan stands in the doorway of his new home, watching Sophia walk away after her apology. He shuts the door quietly, leaning against it as a flood of emotions washes over him. Her words linger in his mind, but they don't hold the power they once would have. Ethan realizes that while her regret is genuine, it isn't enough to undo the damage. The following weeks pass in a blur of routine and rebuilding. Ethan throws himself into his work and spends every free moment with Lily and Oliver. They've adapted well to the new house, and their laughter echoes through the walls, bringing a sense of peace Ethan didn't think he'd feel again. But just when things start to feel stable, another bombshell drops. One afternoon, Ethan receives a call from Allison. Her tone is tense, her words rushed. Ethan, we need to talk. It's about Eric and Sophia. Ethan frowns, gripping the phone tightly. What's going on? They've been meeting again, Allison says, her voice laced with frustration. I saw them together at the park yesterday. I thought it was a coincidence, but then I found texts on Eric's phone. They're still talking. Ethan's chest tightens. He thought Sophia's apology marked the end of her entanglement with Eric, but this changes everything. Are you sure? Ethan asks, though he already knows Allison wouldn't bring this up unless she was certain. Yes, she says. I just thought you should know. Ethan spends the rest of the day in a haze of anger and disbelief. He replays every interaction with Sophia since their separation, wondering if her remorse was just a facade. That evening, after putting the kids to bed, he decides he's had enough. He picks up his phone and texts Sophia. "We need to talk. Tomorrow, my place." The next day, Sophia arrives, her expression wary. She senses the tension in Ethan's voice and body language, but she doesn't know what's coming. "What's this about?" she asks, stepping inside. Ethan doesn't waste time. "I know about Eric. I know you've been seeing him again." Sophia freezes, her face draining of color. "Ethan, it's not what you think. Don't lie to me." Ethan snaps, his voice sharp. "Allison saw you. She found your texts. After everything you said, after everything you've put me through, you're still seeing him." Sophia takes a step back, her hands trembling. "I wasn't trying to hurt you. I needed closure." "Closure?" Ethan repeats, his voice rising. "You call sneaking around closure? You had a chance to end this the right way, to take responsibility for what you did, and you blew it." Sophia's eyes fill with tears, but Ethan doesn't let up. "You said you wanted to fix things." He continues, his tone cold. "But all you've done is prove that you can't be trusted." "I'm sorry," Sophia whispers, her voice breaking. "I didn't know how to let go. I didn't want to lose you, but I didn't want to lose him either." The admission hits Ethan like a punch to the gut. He takes a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "Well, you've made your choice," he says finally. "And now I'm making mine. I want you out of my life for good." Sophia sobs, but Ethan doesn't falter. He opens the door and gestures for her to leave. "We'll talk about custody arrangements later. For now, I think it's best if you stay away." She hesitates, searching his face for any sign of forgiveness, but there's none to be found. With a shaky breath, she steps outside. Ethan closes the door behind her, leaning against it as the weight of the confrontation settles over him. The fallout from the confrontation marks a turning point for Ethan. He knows he can't keep letting Sophia's choices dictate his life. He begins working with a lawyer to finalize their divorce, focusing on creating a stable future for himself and the kids. Allison, too, takes steps to reclaim her life. She files for divorce from Eric, determined to start fresh. She and Ethan stay in touch, their shared experiences creating a bond that feels more like friendship than anything else. One evening, Allison invites Ethan over for dinner. It's a simple gesture, a chance for them to catch up without the weight of their exes looming over them. Over glasses of wine and easy conversation, they talk about everything: work, kids, and the unexpected twists life has thrown their way. "You know," Allison says with a small smile, "I think we're going to be okay." Ethan nods, a hint of a smile tugging at his lips. "Yeah, I think so too." The story reaches its climax when Ethan attends a parent-teacher event at Lily's school. It's his first time back at the school since everything with Sophia unfolded, and the atmosphere feels charged with unspoken tension. As he walks through the hallways, he catches snippets of hushed conversations and sidelong glances. But Ethan keeps his head high, refusing to let the gossip bother him. In the auditorium, he spots Sophia across the room. She looks tired, her once confident demeanor replaced by something more subdued. When their eyes meet, she offers a small, tentative wave. Ethan nods in acknowledgement but doesn't approach her. Instead, he focuses on Lily, who's beaming as she shows him her latest artwork. "You're amazing," he tells her, his voice full of pride. "Don't ever forget that." As the event winds down, Ethan feels a sense of closure he didn't expect. He knows there will still be challenges ahead, but for the first time in months, he feels like he's truly moving forward. If you've been following Ethan's journey, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned for the conclusion, where we explore how Ethan and Allison embrace their new beginnings. Ethan sits at the kitchen table late into the night, staring at the custody agreement drafts his lawyer has sent over. The process feels surreal, as though he's living someone else's life. He rubs his temples, trying to focus, but his thoughts keep drifting back to everything that's happened. Sophia's betrayal still stings, but the revelation that she continued seeing Eric after their separation feels like salt in the wound. Ethan knows this is the right path, but knowing it doesn't make it any easier. The next day, Ethan receives an unexpected call from Lily's teacher, Ms. Carter. "Mr. Harper, I wanted to let you know that Sophia was at school today." Ms. Carter says hesitantly. "That's not unusual, is it?" Ethan asks, though a knot forms in his stomach. "She spoke to Lily," Ms. Carter continues. "It wasn't a scheduled visit. Lily seemed upset afterward, and I thought you should know." Ethan thanks her and immediately calls Sophia. "What were you doing at the school?" he demands when she answers. "I just wanted to see Lily," Sophia says defensively. "I miss her, Ethan." "Is that so terrible?" "You went behind my back," Ethan snaps. "You don't get to do that. We're working on custody arrangements for a reason." Sophia's voice softens. "I didn't mean to upset anyone. I feel like I'm losing everything." "That's on you, Sophia," Ethan says, his voice firm. "You made these choices. Now you have to live with them." The tension between Ethan and Sophia comes to a head during their next mediation meeting. It's supposed to be a straightforward discussion about the custody schedule, but emotions quickly boil over. "I just want what's best for the kids," Sophia says, her voice trembling. "Do you?" Ethan counters, his tone sharp. "Because sneaking around at their school doesn't exactly scream best interest." The mediator steps in, trying to calm the situation, but the damage is done. The meeting ends with no resolution, leaving both Ethan and Sophia more frustrated than before. Later that week, Ethan takes Lily and Oliver to the park. It's a sunny afternoon, and the kids are thrilled to be outside, their laughter echoing across the playground. Ethan watches them, a small smile tugging at his lips. But the moment is interrupted when he spots Sophia standing by the entrance, watching from a distance. She doesn't approach, but her presence feels like an intrusion. Ethan debates whether to confront her but decides against it. The kids don't need more drama. When they return home, Ethan sits down with Lily to talk. "Mommy said she wants to see us more," Lily says quietly, her eyes fixed on the drawing she's working on. Ethan sighs, choosing his words carefully. "I know it's hard, sweetheart. Mommy and I are trying to figure things out. But no matter what happens, we both love you very much." Lily nods, though she doesn't look entirely convinced. As tensions escalate, Ethan finds an unexpected ally in Allison. They meet for coffee again, both needing someone who understands the complicated emotions they're dealing with. "You're handling this better than I am," Allison admits, stirring her latte. Ethan chuckles dryly. "I doubt that. Most days, I feel like I'm barely keeping it together." "Eric's trying to play the victim now," Allison says with a roll of her eyes. "He says I'm overreacting, that we could work things out if I just forgave him. As if it's that simple." "It's not," Ethan agrees. "And honestly, I don't think people like them understand the damage they've caused." Their conversation drifts to lighter topics, and for the first time in weeks, Ethan feels a sense of normalcy. The story reaches a boiling point when Ethan receives a call from Ryan. "You're not going to believe this," Ryan says, his tone grim. "Sophia and Eric were seen together at a restaurant last night. Publicly." Ethan feels his chest tighten. "Are you sure?" "Positive," Ryan says. "A friend of mine was there. He said they looked pretty cozy." Ethan doesn't know why he's surprised. He thought he'd reached the limit of what Sophia could do to hurt him, but apparently he was wrong. Fueled by a mix of anger and determination, Ethan decides it's time to confront Sophia once and for all. He calls her and asks to meet, making it clear that this conversation isn't optional. They meet at a neutral location, a small cafe far from the prying eyes of Willow Creek. Sophia arrives looking nervous, her hands fidgeting with the strap of her purse. "What's this about?" she asks, sitting down across from Ethan. "I know you've been seeing Eric again," Ethan says bluntly. Sophia's eyes widen, but she quickly composes herself. "It's not what you think." "Don't," Ethan interrupts, his voice cold. "Don't insult me by trying to explain it away. You said you wanted to fix things, but all you've done is make everything worse." Sophia's facade cracks, and tears spill down her cheeks. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I'm trying, Ethan. I swear I am. You're not, Ethan says, his tone unwavering. And that's why this is over. Completely. No more excuses, no more second chances. From now on, our only connection is the kids. Sophia nods, her shoulders slumping in defeat. I understand. Ethan stands, leaving her sitting alone at the table. He walks out of the cafe feeling a strange mix of relief and sadness. Back at home, Ethan takes a deep breath and focuses on the future. He knows the road ahead won't be easy, but he's ready to face it head-on. If you're invested in this story, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more recaps and gripping tales. Stay tuned for the conclusion, where Ethan and Allison take the first steps toward a brighter future. Ethan doesn't waste time after leaving the cafe. He calls his lawyer the next morning, finalizing the custody arrangement and divorce papers with a determination that surprises even himself. This isn't about Sophia anymore. It's about stability for Lily and Oliver. The decision ignites a shift in Ethan's outlook. He begins focusing on his own growth, spending more time on the things he loves, and fostering deeper connections with his kids. Yet, he knows the story isn't over. One evening, Ethan receives a message from Allison. Can we talk? Something's come up. They meet at her house, where Allison greets him with an uneasy expression. It's Eric, she says, her tone weary. He's been trying to reach me, claiming he wants to make things right. But here's the kicker, he mentioned Sophia. Ethan frowns, sitting down across from her. What about her? Allison hesitates before handing Ethan her phone. He sent me this. On the screen is a series of text messages from Eric, detailing an argument he had with Sophia. The messages reveal something Ethan hadn't known. Sophia wanted to end things with Eric, but Eric was resistant. She's not the victim here, Allison says quickly. But I thought you should know what's been going on behind the scenes. Ethan processes the information, feeling a surge of conflicting emotions. He doesn't excuse Sophia's actions, but a part of him can't help but feel pity for her. The next day, Ethan receives a call from Sophia. Her voice is strained, her words rushed. I need to talk to you, she says. It's important. Ethan debates ignoring her but ultimately agrees to meet. They sit across from each other in a quiet park, the tension between them palpable. I know I don't deserve this, Sophia begins, her hands wringing nervously. But I need to tell you the truth. Ethan waits, his expression unreadable. Eric and it's over, she says. For good this time. I realized he was toxic, and I couldn't keep lying to myself or to you. Ethan raises an eyebrow. And why should I believe you now? Sophia looks down, tears glistening in her eyes. You don't have to. I needed you to know that I'm trying to change. Not for us, for me. Ethan exhales, unsure how to respond. That night, Ethan reflects on Sophia's words. He doesn't trust her, but he can see that she's grappling with the consequences of her choices. For the first time, he feels a sense of closure, not forgiveness but acceptance. Meanwhile, Allison decides it's time to confront Eric once and for all. She arranges a meeting in a public place, ensuring she's safe if things go south. Eric shows up looking disheveled, a far cry from the confident man Allison once knew. What do you want? She asks, keeping her tone even. I want another chance, Eric says, his voice tinged with desperation. I made a mistake, Allison, but we can fix this. Allison shakes her head. No, Eric, we can't. You destroyed my trust, and there's no coming back from that. Eric's expression hardens, but Allison doesn't waver. She stands her ground, finally reclaiming the power he took from her. The story builds to its climax when Sophia calls Ethan in a panic one evening. Eric's at my apartment, she says, her voice trembling. He's angry, and I don't know what to do. Ethan doesn't hesitate. He grabs his keys and drives to Sophia's place, his mind racing. When he arrives, he finds Eric standing outside, shouting through Sophia's door. Eric! Ethan calls out, his voice firm. Eric turns, his expression twisting into a sneer. Well, look who it is. Come to save the day. Leave, Ethan says, his tone leaving no room for argument. Now. Eric takes a step toward Ethan, his posture threatening. You think you can just walk in here and play the hero? Ethan doesn't back down. This isn't about me. It's about you knowing when to stop. Walk away before this gets worse. For a tense moment, it seems like Eric might escalate the situation. But then he scoffs, muttering something under his breath before walking away. Sophia opens the door cautiously, her eyes red from crying. Thank you, she whispers. Ethan doesn't stay long. He makes sure Sophia is safe before leaving, his mind swirling with thoughts. The confrontation with Eric feels like the final piece of a long, painful puzzle. Ethan realizes that he's done everything he can to protect his family and himself. He no longer feels weighed down by anger or regret, just a quiet determination to move forward. The next day, Ethan takes Lily and Oliver to the beach. They spend the day building sandcastles and chasing waves, their laughter filling the air. Watching them, Ethan feels a sense of peace he hasn't felt in months. If you've been following Ethan's journey, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned for the final chapter, where Ethan and Allison explore the possibility of new beginnings. Months pass, and the chaos of the custody battle begins to settle into a steady rhythm. Ethan has primary custody of Lily and Oliver, and Sophia's supervised visits have gradually become more structured and productive. While their relationship remains strained, there's a growing sense of mutual respect as co-parents. For Ethan, the journey hasn't been easy, but through it all, he's discovered a resilience he didn't know he had. His focus remains on his children, ensuring they feel loved, supported, and secure despite the upheaval in their lives. One afternoon, Ethan takes Lily and Oliver to their favorite spot by the lake. It's a sunny day, and the water sparkles under the clear blue sky. As the kids play nearby, Ethan sits on a bench, reflecting on how far they've come. Ryan joins him, holding 2 cups of coffee. You've done good, man, Ryan says, handing Ethan a cup. The kids are happy. You're standing tall. You should be proud. Ethan smiles, nodding. I couldn't have done it without people like you and Allison. You kept me grounded when I felt like everything was falling apart. Ryan grins. What are best friends for? Speaking of Allison, how's she doing? She's good, Ethan replies. She finalized her divorce a few weeks ago. We've been meeting up now and then, mostly for the kids. But it's nice to have someone who gets it. Ryan raises an eyebrow. Just for the kids, huh? Ethan laughs, shaking his head. For now, yeah. I'm not rushing into anything. Meanwhile, Sophia continues her efforts to rebuild her life. She's moved into a more permanent home, resumed her therapy sessions, and maintained her commitment to the parenting program. The court has granted her unsupervised visitation rights, a milestone she's worked hard to achieve. Her relationship with Ethan remains distant, but there are glimmers of understanding between them. During a drop-off one evening, she hands Ethan a small envelope. What's this? Ethan asks, glancing at it. It's just a thank you, Sophia says softly, for being patient with me, for giving me a chance to be there for the kids. Ethan opens the envelope later that night. Inside is a handwritten note expressing her gratitude and acknowledging the pain she's caused. It's not an attempt to reconcile their marriage. It's simply a step toward closure. The final turning point comes during a school art show where Lily's work is being featured. Ethan and Sophia both attend, along with Allison and her son. The event is lively, filled with proud parents and excited kids. Ethan watches as Lily beams with pride, showing off her paintings to anyone who will look. Oliver, meanwhile, tugs on his sleeve, excitedly pointing out the dinosaur drawings made by other students. Sophia approaches cautiously, a nervous smile on her face. She's incredible, Sophia says, nodding toward Lily. You've done such a great job with her. We've done a great job, Ethan corrects, surprising even himself. For the first time in a long time, they share a genuine smile. As the event winds down, Allison joins Ethan outside, her son running ahead to catch up with Lily and Oliver. It's amazing to see how far they've come, Allison says, watching the kids with a warm smile. They're resilient, Ethan agrees, stronger than I ever gave them credit for. Allison glances at him, a hint of curiosity in her eyes. And what about you? How are you holding up? Ethan pauses, considering her question. I think I'm finally starting to feel like myself again. Or maybe a better version of myself. It's hard to explain. I get it, Allison says. It's like you're building a new life from the ground up. Ethan nods, a small smile playing on his lips. Yeah, and it doesn't feel so overwhelming anymore. They stand in comfortable silence, the weight of their shared experiences giving way to a quiet sense of hope. The story concludes with Ethan and his kids settling into their new normal. Their home is filled with laughter, love, and the occasional chaos of raising two energetic children. Ethan has learned to embrace the unpredictability of life, finding joy in the little moments that make it all worthwhile. Sophia, too, has grown. While she'll always carry the weight of her mistakes, she's committed to becoming a better mother and person. Her relationship with Ethan remains cordial, and though their paths have diverged, they both prioritize the well-being of their children. And then there's Allison. While she and Ethan aren't rushing into anything, there's an undeniable connection between them. A friendship that feels like the foundation for something more. Whether or not they take that step remains to be seen, but for now, they're content to support each other as they navigate the challenges of starting over. Ethan's journey is one of resilience, growth, and the power of forgiveness. Not necessarily for others, but for himself. He's learned that life doesn't always go as planned, but even in the face of heartbreak, there's always a chance to rebuild, to find joy, and to move forward. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more engaging recaps and emotional journeys. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.